everyone. So, greetings. I hope you are all doing well. I'm a little bit earlier today because I have clients and I've got a corporate gig later on. So, I'm doing my live stream a little bit earlier today. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining me on the planet. My name is June Allen and I am the founder of The Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So, I'm a trauma therapist, I'm a retreat facilitator, I'm a soon to be author. What else? What else do I do? I'm a business coach. I do so many things. And I absolutely love what I do. So today I want to talk to you about spirituality and success. Okay, spiritual principles for success. What does spirituality mean in business? Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be super religious or anything like that, but it's given you an opportunity to explore the idea that your inner sacredness, part of being human, the inner sacredness, the universe, the reconnecting to our ancestors and bringing all of that sort of stuff into our experience as business owners is something for you to explore. So this is not about being super religious or thinking that that you have to be super religious in order to be successful in business or anything like that. This is purely an idea just to explore, and I'm going to be sharing my own experience and stuff like that around how I use spirituality, particularly African spirituality, to help me to thrive in business. Hi Michelle, thanks for joining. But before I get into that, I'm going to be sharing what's inspired me to have this conversation today. And this is, if you haven't heard already, this is about my North Star Business School, which is going to be opening a week today. I'm going to be opening open the doors to my business school. So, the business school is basically going to be a 9-month experience for student therapists that have recently qualified. Whether you might already be qualified already, but you're looking to you might already be qualified, but you're thinking about going into private practice, or maybe you're already in private practice and you want to revamp your private practice. Okay, maybe you're a well-being practitioner, maybe you're a mental health professional, maybe you're a diversity and inclusion person, maybe you're a coach. All of these things are, the business course is going to, or the business school is going to be able to support you in being able to in being able to set up the foundations to help you thrive. Okay, so here are the modules that are going to be included. Are the first one in this going to start from next week is going to be self-care for success. Then we're going to be in the winter term, we're going to be talking about all things money. We're going to be talking about money moves. Okay. Then in the spring term, we're going to be doing client attraction and marketing. And then in the summer term, we're going to be doing how to maintain your private practice. Okay. So if you fall under any of those things and you've been watching some of the live streams that I've been doing over the last few days and stuff that's resonating with you, and you're interested in joining us for that, you can click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. I will be doing a taster on Sunday evening at 7 p.m. London time, where I'm going to be teaching you how to do a self-care for success inventory. Okay, self-care for success inventory. That's going to be totally free, so you can join. You have the opportunity also to ask loads of questions about the business school. If you've got other thoughts and feelings or whatever about stuff you're not sure about, I can answer your questions there. Okay, so if you've got any queries or anything about that, then please, you can click the link in my bio, and you can sign up for the class on Sunday. Or if you want, you can drop your details in the comments, or you can email me info@artofgreatness.com. Okay, so that is the housekeeping for today. So let's get into the content. So today I want to talk to you about spirituality, spiritual principles, okay, for success. How does spirituality play a role in business? Now, like I was saying earlier, I'm not super religious or anything like that. I don't, and I'm not saying that anybody that is in business has to be spiritual, but it's just something to think about within the context of your self-care. And it's something that I've practiced, over the years and kind of explored a lot more. And there's something about using spiritual principles, for me specifically around African spirituality. This really helped me to reclaim my culture, to reclaim autonomy over my culture, to reclaim autonomy and reconnection with these principles I'm going to share with you. They're universal. You know, there's nothing religious or whatever about these things that I'm about to share with you, but there's something about understanding that these universal principles are spiritual and came from, you know, that there's a history that comes with these principles that I'm going to share with you that gives me a sense of comfort. And there's something also about honoring and acknowledging and exploring and working with the part of us that is sacred, the part of us that is universal, the part of us that is bigger than anything that we're going to be doing in private practice. You know, there's a collective energy, a universal energy, a spiritual energy, a sacred energy that resides within all of us. Okay, that resides within all of us, that connects all of us, and that is the type of spirituality that I'm talking about. It's the energy that connects all of us as human beings across the globe. And so, you know, tapping into these universal principles, it's an opportunity for us to think about, you know, how we can collectively do this work and do it in a way that feels honorable, and that gives a sense of value as well. You know, if you've never really thought about your business within the context of, you know, what your values are and all the rest of it, you know, these what I'm going to share with you today is going to hopefully be really helpful for you to start to think about what your values are as a business, what your values are as a therapist. Because I think that's really important. That is going to, hi conscious parent, thanks for joining. That is going to give you an idea as to how you're going to structure your business, how you're going to make decisions, and how you're going to work with people. That all of these things are going to have a you know, are going to have an impact. And again, you're niching down on the type of people that you're choosing to work with, and not everybody wants to niche down, and that's okay as well. But I know for me, sharing my values and stuff like that, you know, as part of how I work, it gives people more of an understanding as to why I do things, how I do things, the way that how I do things, and it gives you an understanding of what they can expect as well, what they can expect from me as a therapist, and it gives them an insight as to what my values are as well as a business owner and as a therapist. It gives them an insight in all of those things, and that helps to build trust as well with clients or anybody that's watching the work, whether they want to work with me one-on-one, or whether they want to work with me in a business capacity in a course or something like that. It gives them an idea as to what I'm about and how I operate. Okay, so these spiritual principles these universal principles that I work with, you know, they're rooted in the principles of my art. Okay, so my art, just for those of you that are not aware of the, you know, what my art is, my art refers to an ancient. I actually did a class on this in my membership like last year. I found all the PDFs and everything. I was like, oh, okay, I forgot I did this. So I'm basically sharing some tea, some stuff that I taught in my mastermind last year. So I've put my art refers to the ancient Egyptian goddess who represents the crucial concepts that maintain the universe with order and balance. Okay, so in ancient paintings, she's depicted with an ostrich feather on top of her head and sometimes with wings. Okay, so when we act in ways that oppose my art, okay, when we're not in alignment with the principles of my art, we upset the balance of the universe and risk bringing chaos and disorder into our lives and those around us. Okay, so now I'm going to talk you through the 7 principles of my art and how that relates to being in business. Okay, the first principle of my art is truth. Okay, you have to be willing to tell the truth about what is real and what's not real. Okay, that's what truth is. Understanding the difference between what's real and unreal. And sometimes a lot of us will be in denial, or not, we're not able to tell the truth to ourselves about what's really happening because it becomes too painful. It becomes, you know, sometimes we can be so scared of the truth that we just sit in the denial. And that's something that's not gonna work well for you if you're setting up your private practice. You need to be honest about what's happening. When it comes to money, when it comes to your abilities, your you know, how you feel, what's going on for you, you have to be honest with yourself across the board. Otherwise, you can't. That clarity is going to help you make more sober choices. If you're not clear, if you're not honest with yourself, you're not going to have clarity. If you're not honest with yourself, you're not going to be able to decipher what is real and what's not real. If you're not honest with yourself, you're not going to understand what you're in denial about, why you're in denial about those things, what you're in pain about, why you're in pain about those things, and what you need to do next. When you're truthful, especially within a community setting, I literally, when I logged into my Instagram on my phone to start this live stream, the first thing that came up on my timeline was a business coach I've been following for quite some time. Her name's Jerisha Hawk. She's amazing, and she's just done one of her own business conferences, and she was basically, the quote on her page was, "Greatness doesn't happen in isolation." Okay, greatness does not happen in isolation, and I absolutely love that. And the reason why that was just so profound for me to hear that now is because, you know, you can't do this stuff by yourself, and you have to be honest about the fact that you can't do this stuff by yourself. A lot of us, because of our own, you know, childhood wounds and whatever, our mistrust of other black people and all that sort of stuff, we find it, we end up doing a lot of stuff in isolation. And so we don't really understand what it means to be able to collaborate, to be able to work with others in a way that feels really holding and healing. You know, community is everything, which is why the self-care module is the first module, because we need to be having all of those conversations about mistrust. What happens to you when you get around other black people? What triggers you about other black people? How is your, and this ties into the stuff that I was talking about yesterday about, you know, how is your inner child sabotaging your work and your business? You know, go back and watch that if you've not watched that one already. I've had quite a lot of feedback about that one. You know, people saying it was really fire and all the rest of it. You know, so go back and watch that one if you haven't watched it already, because that's going to be relevant. But you need to be able to tell the truth about what's happening for you, so that you can get clarity and then make decisions from that position of clarity. Okay, so truth is everything. You need to be clear about what being truthful means for you. Okay, the second spiritual principle of Ma'at is justice. Okay, the second principle is justice. Justice is essential for maintaining social order and harmony. Producing justice means that we are all created equal, and those that need the most help get it. Okay, so justice, and like I was saying in my other previous live streams, you know, therapy is political. Being a black therapist is political, whether you want to accept it or not. It's political. Okay, because it means that every time you sit down with a client, every time you do your own work, okay, it's liberation work. This is liberation work. You're pushing back against the systems of oppression. You're pushing back against those oppressive systems that say that black people are not allowed to be well. Black people are not allowed to have a voice. Black people are not allowed to, you know, have our own spaces to be able to do our own healing work and all of that kind of stuff. You're pushing back against all of those white supremacist codes that don't want black people to thrive. Okay, doing therapy work is political by default, because, you know, as a black therapist, you know, so Conscious Parent is saying it's true. So it's being absolutely being a black teacher. Yes. Because it's not always just about being in those roles. It's also having an awareness around how the impact of oppression and racism, how that impacts how you show up. You know, it's about what you're talking about, what you're saying, how you're teaching, how you're actually showing up. Are you actually bringing in the race part, the racialized part of your work? Is that showing up in your work? Is that showing up in your work? Because sometimes these organizations, these institutions will put black people in these positions, but not give them any, but they're not actually allowed to actually talk about any of the things that I'm talking about. You're not allowed to talk about anything within the context of race and how our racialized experience impacts how we learn, how we grow. All of these types of things are really, really important. So the principle of justice is really about giving yourself permission to have that conversation with yourself. Okay, have that conversation with yourself about, okay, how can I show up powerfully in my work and include how racism and oppression impacts people, How can you include that in a way that's powerful? How can you include that in a way that's going to help people that you're serving think about their own existence in the world and how racism and oppression impacts them? It's about passing that stuff on. You know, I see so many therapists and coaches and people like that. They're talking about healing. They're talking about doing the work, but they're not talking about race. And that don't make no sense to me. How can you be talking about healing and all of this sort of stuff, and you're not bringing in the context of racism and oppression? That don't make no sense. That has to be part of the conversation. That has to be part of the conversation in order for justice to be served. And I know sometimes it's difficult when you're working in certain institutions that I don't talk about politics, don't talk about that. You know, they don't want you to bring, they call it quote unquote politics, but really what they mean is they want you to collude. Okay, they want you to collude with the system and not talk about it. Or if you're allowed to talk about it, you're only allowed to talk about it within the context of what they want you to talk about. Which quite often means that they're only going to let you teach things that are going to enable the oppression of people, of non-white people. That's the only time that a lot of these institutions and systems will allow you to talk about race, is if it's still if it continues, if it's linked to continuing the oppression. So as an example, when I was studying at college, you know, they talked about you know, they kind of lumped all of the oppression and all of that stuff into, you know, a couple of weeks. So they talked about diversity, you know, you know, and they talked about, you know, black clients and all the rest of it, how to you know, work with black clients. But they didn't really go deep into whiteness and racism in the therapy room. They didn't really talk about that. Not with any great depth. They didn't really talk about that. So it is really, really important to think about these things when you're running your own business. Okay, how can justice be served in what you're doing? Yeah, how can justice be served? That's the second principle of my art. Okay, the third principle is harmony. Okay, harmony is a state of being where different expressions of a higher source, i.e. humans, animals and plants, move together in ways that create alignment and beauty. Each expression is respected and expressed fully in its own authentic way. Okay, so what this means is your business hurting other people, places or things? Are you harming the earth? Okay, is your business doing things that are not sustainable to this? Maybe, you know, an example of that could be you know, to do with, you know, having awareness around climate and all that sort of stuff. As in, you know, are you using a lot of paper? Are you recycling your rubbish? Are you and obviously I'm just using some these really simple, just kind of general things, but it's about remembering that your business is not there just in isolation. Okay, your business is not going to be in existence just in isolation. It's part of an ecosystem that's universal. So you need to think about, how does your business contribute to the well-being of the planet or not? Okay, how does your business contribute to the well-being of the planet? And that can be spiritually, emotionally, physically. It can be all of those things to think about. It's not just about, you know, making sure that you're recycling your paper. You know, and I know for me, okay, I know that what I'm doing is in harmony with the universe, because what I'm doing is you know, it's anti-racist work is what I'm doing. It's anti-racist work, it's liberation work, it's community work, it's about healing, you know, it's about pushing back against systems of oppression. That's my focus. That's part of my values as a therapist and as a business owner. It's about, and this is why I niche down in what I'm doing, is because, you know, it is about working with, you know, pushing back against systems of oppression. So for me, the harmony part in my work is really about being clear about creating harmony for black people within themselves, before they can start to work with other people about harmony. They can't be talking to other people about sitting down and coming together. You know, I think this is something that is really important in our community around the whole profession around healing. I think sometimes people can be so quick to do kumbaya. They want to sit down with a whole lot of white people and go, oh yeah, let's sit down together and do kumbaya and talk about race, and let's all hug each other and all the rest of it. And no one's done any individual work. And I think that's often done prematurely, and it can create it can make things worse, actually. It can make things worse. So it's really important when we talk about harmony and coming together as a community, we're coming together and you know, talking to white people about race and all of that kind of stuff, is asking the question, okay, are you doing your own work? Are you, if you're a white person watching this, are you as a white person doing your own work, your own liberation work individually, and not hiding behind, oh, you know, I'm being an ally and kind of helping black people, helping people of color with their with being a victim of racism? No, you need to be doing your own liberation work first before you can be sitting down in rooms with other people of color. That's what harmony is. You have to start the harmony within yourself before you can go out to other people. And I think, you know, I've been in situations, and I've worked with corporate clients, and sometimes there's pushback. There's pushback when white people don't want to do the sessions on their own. They're afraid of doing the sessions on their own, because when they're with people of color, you know, it's very easy to kind of keep the conversation around being victims of racism. And yes, black people are victims, you know, people of color are victims of racism. Yes, but white people need to do their own work as well, and they don't want to do that work. So they hide behind the people of color. Oh, I'm gonna, you know, they might acknowledge that they're white or whatever, but they sort of hide behind the conversations and the pain and the suffering that black people and people of color go through, and they thereby avoiding doing their own work about what it means to be in a white body, to be in the perpetrator group, okay, and dealing with that, doing your own individual work, doing your own work around your white privilege and what it means to be in a white body and all of that kind of stuff, and what they're not doing, the inaction of whiteness, what they're not doing, how that impacts other people. You know, so the conscious parent is saying the individual work is often missed. Important point. And yes, hiding is a strategy. Listen, I'm telling you, I see it all the time. I see it all the time. And I think sometimes black people and people of color, we want to do the kumbaya so badly. We want racism to end because it's painful for us. So we think that doing the kumbaya is the thing. We think that doing the kumbaya is gonna make white people learn. But you can't push people to do something what they don't want to do. At the end of the day, that's why my focus is on, you know, the community. The focus is on the black community for me, because the anti-blackness is kind of like at the end of the spectrum when it comes to racism and oppression. You know, we get everyone's shit. You know, so it is really, really important to really think about what you're doing individually. Work on yourself first before you start wanting to do kumbaya with everybody else. That's what harmony is about. Start with the individual stuff with yourself and stop hiding in groups. Do your work. Do your own work. Do your own work. You can do your work in a group, but make sure you're doing your work within the group, if that makes sense. Do your own work and you can do it collectively, but make sure you're doing your own work as well and not hide in the group, if that makes sense. So the community and the collective group is only going to be successful, okay, within the context of what you're doing for yourself. If you're doing your own work, the group work is going to be all the more powerful if you're taking responsibility for what's happening for yourself. Okay, if you're interested in working with me within a group, either one-to-one in therapy, or working with me as a group within my North Star Business School, click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So the next one is balance. Okay, our ancestors believed that balance was the key to maintaining stability. Okay, our ancestors believed that balance was the key to maintaining our stability. Okay, balance is about remembering that you are sacred. Okay, remembering that you are sacred. You are not a mule for these systems. You are a sacred human being. Okay, so balance is important. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating properly? Are you getting enough exercise? These things are so basic, but when you get sucked into the vortex of internalized capitalism, racism, you name the ism, you get sucked into these vortex of these oppressive systems, and the self-care can easily go out of the window, because you then become consumed by the fear and the urgency of what these systems demand from us and our black bodies. And you get sucked into the vortex of, oh my gosh, I need to be doing all of this stuff, I need to be going over here, and I need to be going over here, and I need to be running up there, and I need to be doing this, and I'm so busy, and you, before you know it, you're sucked into the vortex of all of this stuff. You can't sleep, you're not eating properly, and you become an object for the system to use you and spit you out when they're finished. And as a business owner, as a therapist, you ain't going to last long. You're going to get burnt out very quickly if your self-care is not in place. That's why the first module of the business school that I'm going to be doing is about self-care for success. Okay? It is about self-care for success first. Because if your self-care is not on point, you ain't going to be serving anybody with any sort of longevity. If you're not doing that first, if you want to do with there's a class that I'm doing on Sunday evening, and I'm going to be showing you how to do a self-care inventory around specifically for business owners, specifically for therapists in private practice, or thinking about going in private practice. It's about reviewing your self-care as it is right now, and then you can build on that. Okay, so that's going to be a really nice kind of leverage point for you to decide whether coming into the business school, which starts next Wednesday, is going to be for you. Okay, so if you're interested in joining me again for the class on Sunday, it's a free class. Again, you can click the link in my bio and sign up for there. There are all the links and stuff to sign up in the link in my bio, okay? But balance is important. It's not just about talking about it. It's not a fantasy. It needs to be a reality. And sometimes it means you're having to put boundaries in to do things that you don't want to do. It can feel scary to kind of block out time in your calendar and go, actually, I'm going to use this time because I need to rest. I'm going to use this time because I need to get out in nature and go for a walk. I'm not going to get sucked into the urgency. Well, the thing that really that makes the balance difficult is, the internalization of capitalism, and making you think that, you've always got to be grinding, you always got to be working. If you're not doing what everyone else is doing, and you're going on social media, you get caught up in the comparison of what this person's doing and that person's, and it can create fear. And this horrible sense of urgency that means that you're constantly grinding, or feeling like you have to be grinding and doing something. Otherwise, the survival stuff, the survival fear kicks in. I'm not going to be able to eat. I'm not going to be able to do this and that. And you feel like you're constantly having to do all of this stuff. And it becomes a madness. It becomes a madness. But actually, the opposite of that is true. The opposite of that is true. Okay? Rest is resistance, and it's also your liberation. But understanding how to do that in a way that's going to be appropriate for you as a business owner is a skill that you have to learn over time. It took me years to learn how to do that. The only reason why I'm able to continue doing what I'm doing 8 years in is because I've learned how to practice more discernment and learn how to tune into my body. And listen to my body and understand the difference between, setting boundaries around when I need to go and rest. When I need to go and rest and when I need to go and sleep. And I'm constantly tweaking my calendar and tweaking the way that I show up to make sure that I'm getting enough rest. And I'm checking in with my body, checking in with my mind. Doing trauma work, because I do so much trauma work as well with my clients, it's even more important. As a black person experiencing the vicarious trauma of whether it's stuff that's going on social media, or whether it's clients bringing their stories in to unpack with me, I need to be aware of how all of that is impacting me as a therapist. and I need to be able to look after myself, not just going to supervision. Supervision is fantastic, but supervision is for an hour or 90 minutes. Okay, that's only part of the conversation. You need to have your own self-care principles and practice in lockdown. You need to have that stuff locked down so that you can show up. So that you can show up in a powerful way with your clients, and that you can consistently show up in a powerful way. So you got longevity. You need to be thinking about that now and not just kind of reacting from burnout. That's what often happens. Therapists end up in a state of burnout. They end up getting burnt out because they didn't do their self-care, and then they're constantly responding in crisis to burnout because they don't have a self-care. They don't have a disciplined, robust self-care practice in place to support them, and they're trying to do it by themselves, and it's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So the spiritual principle of balance, the universal principle of balance, is non-negotiable. Okay, is non-negotiable as a therapist. You have to think about that. You have to include all of that. Okay, so the next one is order. Okay, our ancestors believe that order is essential for proper daily functioning. Okay, this principle is a state of being where things occupy the place and space for where they were created. Okay, so as a business owner, order is important because you're going to need systems. You're going to need to be organized. You're going to need to have all of your systems in place in order for you to create an experience for your clients that is smooth. Okay, you're not going to want to have paperwork all over the place. Okay, you might be showing up, even if you're showing up for your clients powerfully in session, but in the back end, your paperwork's all over the place. You haven't done your figures for HMRC. HMRC is chasing you for this, that, and the other tax return that you haven't done for the last how many years or whatever. You don't want all that chaos. So you need to be bringing this spiritual principle, this universal principle of order, into how you actually run the back end of your business. I've been in organizations where on the front end it looks good, but behind the scenes it's total madness. It's total madness. They've got no structure in place in the back end. They've got no terms and stuff like that in place about how they work with their staff. Okay, they've got no terms in place about how they work with their staff. They've got nothing on like no back end systems in the sense that, you know, you can't go online and go, okay, well, here's the like let me give you an example. I work with a VA. I don't really work with a VA now, but I used to work with a VA, and I'm going to be working with a new VA, you know, in the next few months. So in order for her to understand how I would like to work with her, some of the tasks and stuff that she's going to be doing, I've actually created a vault in the back end online so that I can record videos for her. There's a checklist of things that she needs to be able to do, recurring tasks that I do every week that I want her to do. But in order for her to do that, there has to be a back end system set up, okay, in order for her to understand how I would like her to execute what's going on. In order for me to work well with my clients, I have to have a back end of worksheets, PDFs with the terms, all of that kind of stuff. All of that stuff needs to be set up in the back end, okay? And it has to be done in a way that is uniform, so that all the clients get the same thing. So what I've done is I've created templates so that when a new client comes on board, all I need to do is send them the link. Here's the link for you to pay. Here's the link for you to access the virtual library. Here's the link with the terms and conditions of service. Everything's there. So once I've got that structure in place, okay, once that structure is in place, the client knows exactly what to expect. The client knows exactly what to do. And it saves time for you, because then you're not emailing backwards and forwards with the client. The client saying, "Oh, well, what do I need to do with this? Or how do I do that?" You're not going backwards and forwards, because you can just say, if you go to this section, you can find all of the information there. You can just click this link. Everything that you need to know about this particular thing is fine. You know, when I do reviews with my clients, I like to do reviews with my clients every sort of 6 to 8 weeks. There's a PDF that I've created with questions for them to think about and reflect on before we come together in the session, so that they can think about, oh, okay, well, what have I learned since the last time we did a review? How have things changed for me? What have I learned about myself? Is there things that I would like to do, that I'd like to have a go at exploring over the next 6 weeks? You know, are there things that, you know, that I'm working with the therapist that maybe not working for me that I want to talk about? You know, but I don't have to think about all of these questions, because it's uniform. It's in the back end. It's already in my vault already. So I just need to say to the client, there you go, there's the link. Then, you know, we'll have a talk about the questions next time. These are all things that are really important for order in your business. You know, this is really, really important for order. Okay, this is really, really important. So the conscious parent is saying, I love your new VA's contact. Is that possible? I don't, you know, I'm saying I'm gonna, I haven't actually got a new VA yet. I was working with one in the past, and that didn't work out. So I'm going to be looking for a new one. So I'm going to be sorting that out. So I don't have a new VA as yet. But, you know, I mean, you can look on things like, do you know what I'm going to give you? You're looking for a new VA. I can give you a book that is really good that might help you to do that. It's called this, Virtual Freedom, okay, by Chris Ducker. And he talks about, it gives you all the tea about how to hire a VA and all the rest of it. So I can give you that as a tool. I don't have any VAs yet. This is something that I'm going to be sorting out over the next few months. Okay, does that make sense? Right, so order. So anyway, I hope you got the point. You need to have order in the back end. It's not just about sitting down with your clients. You need to have order in the back end so that your client's experience is smooth, and it's important. It's not just about what you're doing when you're sitting down with a client. Okay, so the next one is reciprocity. Okay, reciprocity. Our ancestors believed that every individual has a responsibility to treat others as they themselves would like to be treated. Okay, there should be a mutual exchange and balance. Okay, there needs to be a mutual exchange and balance. Okay, this reciprocity one is massive on so many levels. When we're talking about reciprocity, we're talking about an exchange of energy. So that could be in terms of money. Okay, it's about making sure that you're paid what you're supposed to be paid. There needs to be a mutual exchange. You're not a charity. Okay, you're an entrepreneur. You're a business owner. So, you know, there's this myth that you know, I think because it's mainly women as well in the therapy profession, I think this is the reason why this attitude is kind of about. But people often or sometimes believe that, oh, well, you know, all you're doing is sitting down and chatting to people, and somehow if you're a therapist that you should you know, that you should do it for free, or you do it for cheap. You know, and it doesn't work like that. You wouldn't go to a doctor's and expect that, you know, if you went to a specialist doctor about something, you wouldn't expect them to do it for free just because you're in pain. There still needs to be it's a reciprocal relationship, you know. So, and I think people underestimate, you know, what goes into the training as a therapist, what goes into, you know, maintaining yourself as a therapist in terms of, you know, I mean, I have spent thousands of pounds over the years. I am telling you, I have spent thousands of pounds, okay, on training, on supervision, on having my own therapy, on business courses. You know, I've spent so much money, but it's worth every bean. It's worth every bean. Because anybody that comes to work with me knows what they're going to get. They know that I know what I'm talking about. They know that I know what I'm talking about. They know that I'm experienced. They know that I'm committed to, you know, not just serving my clients as powerful as I, you know, as powerful as possible, but I'm also committed to my own healing and my own ongoing process, which means when I show up for myself, and I'm doing my own therapy, and I'm making sure I show up at supervision, and I'm going to my recovery meetings and doing all that stuff, I can show up more powerfully for my clients. You can only take your clients as far as the work that you've done. Okay, there's a lot of therapists out here that are working with clients from their head. Okay, it's a very intellectual relationship. The therapist is working from their head, and there's not enough heart. There needs to be a balance between head and heart. There needs to be a combination of the two when you're working with clients. And I think that's many people have told me, one of the reasons why the clients like working with me is because I wear my heart on my sleeve. And that might not be for everybody, but I know that's the reason that people want to come and work with me, because I talk truth, and I talk about my own experience as a therapist, and I talk about my own struggles as well. It's a reciprocal relationship. And in doing so, you know, all the 8 years that I've been sharing all of this stuff online, you know, I've managed to build, you know, I've built my authority, and people trust me. People trust what I say. People trust what I say because I share my opinions, I share my truth, I share all of it. I share all of it. And in doing so, people relate. Clients relate to what I'm saying. You know, and so people, you know, I also said on here loads of times as well, I know I'm not the cheapest therapist. You can go out there and find therapists that are a lot cheaper than what I charge. But I also know that there's a lot of therapists out there that are not doing what I do. They're not doing the niche work that I'm doing. Yeah, they're not doing the niche work that I'm doing, and I've built an authority over time, which I believe that I know that I'm charging what I'm worth. And clients want to come and work with me. They know that I'm not the cheapest, but they still want to come and work with me because they understand what they're going to get. They understand what I'm about. They trust the knowledge that I share on these live streams. Yeah, they trust the knowledge that I'm sharing. So they still want to come and work with me, even though I'm not the cheapest. It's not always about being cheap. So think about the reciprocity part of it. The reciprocity, it's a two-way thing. It's a two-way thing in business. Whether you're charging client, whether it's around money, whether it's around relationships. I tell you, this year when I did a self-care inventory for myself over the summer, and honestly, I came out of so many groups and so many situations. I came out of them because I recognised that the relationships were they weren't reciprocal. I was you know, given my expertise and my thoughts and stuff about things, but the experience and stuff like that was not coming back. And then what happens, what I realised was, in staying in those situations, I end up feeling resentful because I'm not getting nourished. This is why doing a self-care inventory is important, and you need to do it regularly. Do it once a quarter or something. Because when you do that, then you're thinking to yourself, you're getting clarity around, oh, that's why I've been kind of avoiding going to those spaces, because I'm not getting nourished. I'm giving, but I'm not receiving. I'm giving, but I'm not receiving. I'm helping others, but there's not people in the group haven't got the level of experience to be able to help me. So the more confidence you get and the more experience you get as a therapist, you need to up your game around where you get nourished, where you get your self-care, how you do your self-care, so that the reciprocity then becomes aligned. You know, I've just started working with a new therapist, and I absolutely adore it, because I feel like, you know, she's got a lot more. She's definitely got a lot more experience than me. She's definitely got a lot more experience than me. You know, she's got a lot more elder wisdom. She's you know, and I just know I'm going to be able to get so much more out of working with her, because I up my game. I up my game. You got to find yourself in rooms and spaces where people are smarter than you, where they've got more experience than you, so they can pour into you. They can pour into you and allow you to grow. This is the reason why I can come on here and I can pour into you, because I've got people above me that are pouring into me. Otherwise, it's not sustainable for me to come on and pour into you. I have people, I have environments and circles and people that are pouring into me. Whether it's actual groups, or whether it's my therapist, or whether it's a business coach, or whether it's books that I'm reading, or what, I'm constantly allowing myself to absorb and to just drink in the nourishment from other people so that I can pour into you. I'm learning all the time. I'm learning all the time. But it's because the relationships that I have with my circle is reciprocal. It's got to be reciprocal. Okay. So the next one is propriety. The last one is propriety, actually. That's just the final and seventh principle is propriety. Okay. And this means to be and do what is right according to the truth. Okay. This means to be and to do what is right according to the truth. Okay. So what you're doing is this means to do no harm to another being or creature, beginning with self. Okay, so you do what's right, and you start with the relationship with yourself. That's what propriety means. It's doing the right thing, because people can sometimes get caught up in propriety and start talking about, oh yeah, within the context of what it means externally, what it means to be doing stuff with other people. But propriety also, or doing the right thing, also includes and should begin with the relationship with yourself. Do the right thing by yourself. And sometimes that can feel hard, when you're building a business and when you're trying to earn a living and all of that kind of stuff. Sometimes the default can be, well, you're going to abandon yourself because you want to work with this client. You're going to abandon yourself or give them a cheaper price or whatever. You abandon your needs because you're constantly thinking about, your fear of not being able to do it well. And maybe thinking that the other person is not going to give you what you need, so you abandon yourself first. And in the business school, this first module that I'm going to be working on, it's about really understanding, what your survival behaviors are. How do you behave when you work under stress? How do you behave when, how do you deal with uncertainty? How do you deal with rejection? How do you, what happens to you when you're tired? What happens when you've got racial stress, when there's stuff going on in the news that really impacts you? How do you cope with all of those things? How do you cope with all of those things? It's understanding yourself, building a stronger relationship with yourself so that you can show up powerfully for others. And it's not about doing it because you're doing it for others, but doing it for yourself because you are a sacred being. Number one, first and foremost, you are a sacred being and worthy of care, worthy of self-care, worthy of community care. You are worthy of care, and you have to do your own work first before you can really lean into serving others. And that's why that module has to be first. That's why I'm doing that module first. And I wish that I was taught that when I came out, when I finished, when I first set up my business. I wish that somebody was there to tell me that. I could have avoided some of my early day burnouts and stuff like that if somebody had really walked me through and held my hand and showed me how to do all of those things first and showed me why it's important and what the challenges are, why it's difficult. Stuff is really, really important to be able to do that. So those are the seven principles, the 7 spiritual principles of success. Okay. Number 1, truth. Number 2, justice. Number 3, harmony. Number 4, balance. Number 5, order. Number 6, reciprocity. And number 7, propriety. Okay. Those are the 7 principles of my art, the spiritual principles that I use in my business, that I will be using as the guidance, as a guiding light, as a guiding energy to run this course, to show up in my private practice. And I'll be showing you. And as I said, you don't have to be religious. You don't necessarily have to, incorporate any African spirituality in your practice if you don't want to. This is what I do. This is what I found helpful. But these are universal principles. These are universal principles that anybody can use. It just feels like a wonderful way to do it in terms of connecting to my ancestors. This is the reason why I do this. Yeah, this is the reason why I do this. The conscious parent is saying brilliant. Thank you. Oh, you're so welcome. What is your name, actually? I don't want to keep saying the conscious parent. Let me know what your name is. I'm so glad you got value out of this, and it was important for me to share this today because there are people that are spiritual and stuff like that as well, and people don't always talk about spirituality in business. And I think it's an important part. I know for me, it's an important part of. Hang on a minute. Somebody's just try to phone me. So anyway, Yeah, sorry about that. My somebody just tried to call me. Okay, so Laurie. Okay, Laurie. Okay, great. So now I know to mention your name actually when you come in next time. So yeah, if you are interested in joining me for the North Star Business School, which launches next Wednesday, 1 p.m. London time, click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. If you would like to join me for the open day, the taster on Sunday, where I'm going to be talking about how to do a self-care inventory, you can obviously click the link in my bio as well, and you can sign up for that as well. Okay, if you've got any questions about anything that I've shared today, or any questions or anything else that you want to know about spirituality in business, or any of the other topics that I've shared over the last few days, drop your comments in the comment section, or you can send me a DM, or you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I will see you next time. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. All right, take care. Bye bye.